Hello, my sacred rebels. You who dare to believe that you can do what you love to earn your dream life. My name is Maya, and I love helping people find their purpose so that they can have exactly the impact that they are here to have on this world. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 9 reasons why you may be struggling with either an existing business or struggling with getting your passion project up and going. And you may be struggling with one of two things. You may be struggling with either not feeling like you're doing enough or it's going fast enough. You may be struggling with feeling like you're not having the impact that you wanted to have. You may be feeling like an imposter. Personally, when I started my photography business, I spent the first year waking up every morning thinking, today's the day they're going to figure out I don't really know what I'm doing. And the truth was, I did know what I was doing. I wasn't an imposter. And sometimes that headspace that we get into where things aren't happening as fast as we would have liked, or you're not doing things as well as you would like, sometimes that just really weighs on us and it becomes more of a burden than it does a joy. So I'm going to talk to you about enjoying the journey and just some questions to ask yourself to do check-ins to see if you're doing things the way you want to do them. So here goes. So let's start off with a common understanding of what is a business. And for me, a business is very much the sweet spot where 3 things come into alignment. The first part of what we need to look at is, what problem are you trying to solve that someone else is willing to pay you for? And that sounds fairly obvious when you think about it, in that if you want to have a business and you want people to pay you money, you must provide some product or service to them that creates value in their lives based on what it is you want to do for them. So when you think about what that problem is, it's who do I want to help and what do I want to fix for them or solve for them to make their life better. So I'm going to use as an example the home staging business that I accidentally started. I didn't go looking for a problem to solve for someone else to create a business. What happened was I had a relative who needed to sell their home in a very down market. Their problem that they were willing to pay someone else to solve was that they needed their home cleaned, painted, staged, and really good photos taken. Now, I did this out of the goodness of my heart, along with some other family members. And quite often, if you think about it, it's that simple. What are you willing to pay someone else to solve for you? Ask your family members. If you are struggling with your business, my first question to you is, are you trying to solve the right problem? Who are you trying to solve it for? And what is it that you're doing? If you're solving a problem for people you don't like, or for an age group that you don't like if you don't like kids and you're like, I'm going to open a daycare, that's really silly because you don't actually want to solve that problem for those children. So my second question is your solution what people are looking for? Now, with the home staging business that I started, my home sellers were trying to sell their house. It was quite that simple. They were trying to sell their house as quickly as possible and for as much money as possible. What I also found, though, was that I solved a bigger problem for the realtor, because my realtor, the realtor for this house, had a lot of properties that all had the same problem. All of the houses that they were trying to help sell needed consultation, they needed staging, they needed advice. So sometimes when you're looking at what problem you're looking to solve, it's not only who is it that you're trying to help directly, but who are you trying to help indirectly. What I did for my family members, which was to actually go in and physically do the cleaning, physically repaint, physically rearrange the furniture to make the most of the house, that was not something that I would be able to do for every single homeowner that this realtor was trying to help. But what I ended up doing was I would go in and do a consultation with the homeowners for this realtor. And I would do an action plan for them. And I would say, in your kitchen, make sure your refrigerator's clean and smells good. Make sure that your dishwasher's clean. If you're selling a 3-bedroom house, make sure there's a bed in each room you want to sell as a bedroom. Some of it was very obvious if you got into selling houses on a regular basis, but if this is the first time you've ever sold a house, you don't necessarily know these things. And so by working with the homeowners, many times they could take the advice and do the work themselves. And then in some cases they needed help, so we could give them quotes for that amount of work. But we really had to think about, what was it that I was solving for these people, and how could I do it in a way that worked for the home seller, in a way that it worked for the realtor, and in a way that it worked for me and my time, so that I could charge an appropriate amount for the value I was providing to the customers. Which leads me to the third question, which is, how much value are you adding to someone's life compared to what price you're asking? It's really important to think about this from your customer's point of view. Let me use the wedding photography business that I had as a great example of this. I charged a good amount for wedding photography because the way I wanted to do the wedding photography was I would meet with a couple at least once or twice before their wedding day, talk through their wedding planning. I would show up and be on my feet between 8 and 12 hours, depending on the package that they bought. A lot of brides looking to hire me would say, well, you're only going to be there for a few hours on the wedding day. Why does it cost so much? Well, I would meet with them ahead of time. I would take pictures for 8 to 12 hours. And then my work would begin, because then I had to go through and do all the editing, and I had to post their pictures online. I had to design their albums. I designed slideshows for them. So I probably had 40 hours, 30 to 40 hours after their wedding day. And most brides would be like, well, I only see the value of several hours on the wedding day. So I had to do some education there as well and explain why all of this work that I did would add so much value. So for whatever you are offering, what is the value to your customers based on the price that you're asking? It's very easy as an entrepreneur to think, well, my time's really valuable. I'm going to charge however much money I can get. And it's important that you price your services appropriate for the value you're providing, and not just on the number of hours that you worked for them. My last thought about value is, even though I was hired to do wedding photography, I not only carried a camera bag full of camera equipment, but in my camera bags, I carried safety pins and bobby pins and scissors and mirrors and combs and knee-high nylons that worked well for rubbing deodorant off of the men's suits. I carried large umbrellas in my car. Now, I didn't need to do any of that. They weren't hiring me as a photographer to do that. But I will tell you, every single wedding, I would pull out 5 or 6 different things because somebody's like, oh my gosh, I need a safety pin. Oh my gosh, I need bobby pins, whatever it was. And I'd be like, I got that. Hold on, I got that. I learned how to bustle dresses. I learned how to help the bride and groom cut the cake. I could tell them how to do that. And anything that I could do to work with the other wedding vendors, either during the ceremony or at the reception, I learned that when I worked well as a team with everyone else, the weddings just went off so much better. And I would be hired at subsequent weddings because at a wedding, everybody would be like, oh, thank God, you have just created such calm. You're so kind. You've gone above and beyond. It didn't cost me anything to carry all that stuff. And I actively looked for ways that I could add value while doing my job. Because the value was so high, my word of mouth between brides was excellent. And I got other weddings, other family weddings, because of how I just made their day so much more special. And that is really priceless. All right, so we've talked about the problem that you're solving, who and what. The next part I want to talk about is your passion. What are you passionate about? The passion is the why of your business. Why do you want to do what you do? Why did I want to do wedding photography? Well, I photographed a couple of family weddings. And I loved it. I loved being part of the day. I was absolutely delighted when people would look at my pictures and be like, oh, thank you. One of the things that I started very early on in the photography business was trying to get to the reception room before any of the guests got there, because the room's stunningly beautiful and the bride and groom never get to see it that way because they're busy doing photos or mingling with family before they get announced into the reception room. The guests get into the reception room. And so by the time the bride and groom see it, it's kind of messy. And I get so much joy out of sharing those photos with the couples. They were always so surprised. Like, even though I told them that I would do this, they were like, oh, I didn't get to see how amazing the cake looked and the tables that, I had spent so much time picking out all of the little details for the wedding. And they wouldn't really get to see it or appreciate it because they were so caught up in the excitement of their day. And so to be able to share those parts of their story was just amazing. And it was so much fun for everyone. So my why for the wedding photography business was because it brought me joy to be part of these families and part of their day in such an amazing way. Now, if you don't like weddings, but you want to be a photographer, don't do weddings because it's not your passion. So when you're thinking about this problem that you're going to solve, who you're going to help, and what you're going to do, really think about, why am I doing this? What is the passion that's going to drive this, that's going to make me just really stand out? Have you ever eaten at a really good restaurant where the chef is just so passionate about his or her particular way of cooking or their particular ingredients? They're cooking with local ingredients that they believe in and they love. When you eat food that is made with such love and such passion, it is completely different than when you eat fast food. And I'm not saying they don't have their places, but if I could choose every time, I would pick the place to eat where the chef is just so excited and so passionate, because it does make a difference. My second question about passion, or the why, is how hungry are you to follow that passion? I love this question because when I was working with a coach about creating this business, even though this is my passion, and even though I enjoy doing what I love, which is helping other people do what they love, when my coach asked me, how hungry are you for this? I was really stunned, because in that moment, I was struggling. I had been ready to launch a new program. I had my younger daughter working with me at the time, and I was all set to go, and then life happened. My younger daughter was offered her dream job, and even though I was devastated that she wouldn't continue working with me, there was no doubt in my mind, because I believe you can do what you love. My immediate response to her was, honey, you go do that, because that is so your path. And I love that for you. But part of why I was devastated was I was also having health issues, and I had just found out that I needed to have surgery. So I had to rethink how I was going to do this business. I had to go through surgery and recover from that. And the thought of starting again with a different take was just challenging. I won't say it was overwhelming, but I just where do you start? And so if you're struggling with your business, I totally get that. Let's talk about, when you're struggling, how do you move forward? And so I went to a 5-day challenge to remove blocks from moving forward. And if anybody ever wants to know who that person is and what that program is, please let me know. Her name is Mary Scott, and she is amazing. But when she asked me that question in the first hour of that program, I was actually shocked, because even though I knew it was my path and I know that this is where I want to go, in that moment, my answer was, I'm not hungry for this at all. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to continue. So I sat with that for a couple of days, and I really, really had to think about, why was I not hungry to do this? Because I know this is my path. I know this is my passion. And so I spend some time. I spend time in meditation when I have questions like that to answer. I think that we find the answers in the stillness, not in the chaos, and it's not something outside of us. It is something within my soul. I consider this work that I do my soul work. This is my purpose here on earth. And so I released the blocks. And I can't say that I know what the blocks were. I mean, I have guesses. But it's really about making a choice. It's making a choice to be happy. It is a choice about pursuing my passion. It is a choice to enjoy the journey, no matter the roller coaster I have to do, that I have to ride, because it's such an amazing journey and I won't miss a moment of it. And so once I was able to shift, this is my passion. I am hungry for this. I do want this to move forward. Once I made that choice, it just began to flow. And it feels magical and mystical, because once I made that choice, everybody who I needed started to show up in my life, and not just somebody to show up for what I needed help with. The right people showed up for what I needed. And so I am hoping that what I'm sharing is in some way the right words to help you on your path to not give up, because it is so amazing when you dare to believe that this can happen for you. And then my last question around the why and the passion is, are you too passionate about having people do things in a certain way? The reason why I ask you this is, in my work with other small business owners, it's quite easy to get stuck into, this is what I want to offer, this is the way I want my people to do it, and if you don't want to do it, then you're not the right person for me. The one thing that is constant in life is change. And what I find is, when I talk with people, when I listen very carefully to what they're saying, they will tell me what they need. They will tell me what they want to do. And I think that's really, really important, because if you are passionate about there's only one way to do things, I will tell you it's going to be very hard to create a sustainable business. If you can create a framework for yourself, if you can work in this framework but have options along the way, and you listen to what people are telling you they need, you will have everything and you will learn more about what you want to offer. And as you offer to others, the more you can use their words for what they're looking for, the more they will know you are the right person to help them. Whether they hire you or not, they will tell you what they're looking for. And that's really, really important. And I always get ahead of myself in these videos, because the next question is, do you have a framework? So let me talk about frameworks for just a minute. In the small business path, I have a framework to work with people. And by framework, I have lesson plans. With everything I teach, it is more about me asking you the questions and providing you tools than it is saying, you have to do it this way. So, for example, with the majority of business coaches that I have talked to or been pitched, everybody wants to be a business coach for everybody. The majority of the time, those business coaches want to tell you how much money you're going to make, or how many clients you need, and if you have X number of clients, then you need Y number of lead magnets, and in order for them to take the lead magnets, you need to be able to reach X number of people. And while that is true, a business goal is to make money, and you need clients, and you need to get them into your funnel and get them to be your clients. If you have a framework that allows you to be flexible in your approach, and if you believe that your clients, when given the right information, can make the right decisions, then you're going to create a respectful, meaningful relationship. And really, the last section of problem, passion, and then plan of action, the plan of action is to connect with your clients and to create meaningful connections. And so if your plan of action for how you're going to deliver the products or the services that you want if that is a framework that allows for individuality and allows for your clients to make their decisions on how they're going to use your services or how they're going to use your products, then you will have a much stronger clientele. And the stronger the relationship you create with your customers, the more likely they are to remain your customers for a longer period of time. So one of the questions I have for you, the next question I have for you is this. What could you learn from the potential clients that you talked to that did not hire you? If you could ask them one question, what would it be? The obvious one is, why didn't you hire me? But sometimes the clients don't even know why they didn't choose you. Sometimes it's clear, but when you talk to someone as a potential client and it's not a fit, I want you to treat it like a scavenger hunt for information. When I would talk to couples with the wedding photography business, it was interesting to me that after I had some experience in talking with them, I could usually predict before the end of the consultation meeting whether they would hire me or not. And what I started looking for out of curiosity, when it was clear they weren't going to hire me, I started to try and figure out why. What was it about us that wasn't a match? And I did it from two perspectives. One was, why were they not a match for me? And why was I not a match for them? There were some clients where I'm like, yeah, I'm hoping they say no because I don't want to have to fire them as a client, but they are not the right client for me. While I had a general framework for weddings, and I would lay out for them, here's my normal approach, here's how I do things. Part of my style was to be not the aggressive photographer. I've seen other wedding photographers and I've worked with some other wedding photographers that are really in your face, really commanding, really difficult to work with. For example, a friend of mine got married and I got invited as a guest, which was wonderful to not have to work that wedding. Her entire family, every time her wedding would come up for years afterwards, they were like, oh my God, that photographer. Because the photographer, I think the incident at the wedding that the family was just so upset by was the bride's 80-something-year-old grandfather standing off to the side wanted to take a picture with his phone. And the photographer was like, in my contract, it says nobody else can be taking pictures when I'm doing post portraits. And I was not that kind of photographer. I'd be like, sure, grandpa can take a picture because if he can take a better picture than I can, he shouldn't have hired me to start with. I truly believe that everything you do should be done with love. And if a grandma or a grandpa wants to take a picture, I'm cool with that. I had one wedding where the bride, right up front, the bride said, I know in your contract it says no other photographers, but we've got a close family friend. Would you be willing to mentor this person during the wedding? And I know I'm hiring you, but I'm giving you permission to mentor this other person. And I said, sure, absolutely. And it was so funny because after the wedding was done, the bride called me up and she said, so did you take a lot of pictures that you didn't give us? And I said, no, why? She said, because every one of the pictures of me that you took was beautiful. And our friend who's just learning photography, his pictures, I looked awful in almost all of his pictures. And I said, well, I'm sorry that his pictures weren't good. I'm thrilled that you are happy with mine, but that's the kind of photographer I wanted to be. So if I was talking with a couple and they were like, we want somebody who's going to be come on, in our face, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not really the right photographer for you. I think that sometimes when we're struggling with a small business, we want to become all things to all people, and we want to take every single client who walks through our door. And I think that's exactly the opposite of what you should be doing. I think you should be looking for those customers who you have that meaningful connection with and looking for their business and how do you just exceed their expectations. Because those are the customers you're going to keep for life. My last question is, do you create an opportunity for your current clients to give you honest and open feedback? The reason why this is so important, it can feel hurtful sometimes to be told we didn't do a good job or there are things about what we did and how we did it that could have been better. The reality is your clients are thinking that anyway. You not knowing what your clients are thinking could be costing you business. And sometimes it's something really simple that could be addressed, but if you don't know it, you can't address it. And I'll give you one really simple example of this. In my photography business, I had a form that I had customers fill out and send back. And I'd had this great experience with this one couple, and they sent me their feedback form, and there was one comment on it, and I was so irritated at first. And the comment was this: "We would have given you a 10 out of 10, except it took you 2 days to return a phone call about a week before our wedding. And that really upset us, so we're only giving you a 9 out of 10. And at first I was like, wow, that seems really petty. But once I stopped and thought about it, yes, they had called me on a busy weekend where I had 2 weddings and I was really caught up with the clients that I was photographing their weddings that weekend. But I understand why it upset the couple, because it was a week before their wedding and they just wanted to know everything was good. We were all set. It was just a check-in. It wouldn't have taken that much time if I'd really stopped and thought about it, and I should have called them back. And while it sounds simple, it would have meant the world to this couple if I called them. So I apologized, and I sent them some extra prints from their wedding that I knew they loved, because my goal is to make everyone feel seen and heard, and I want to have a very meaningful relationship with everybody I work with. So this has been a really long video, and I hope I've given you a lot to think about. And I just want you to know that if you're interested in working with me, I'd love to get a chance to talk to you and create a meaningful relationship with you. So if you want to go ahead and click a button and find out more about me, I would love to meet you. As always, let all that you do be done in love. Thank you.